All right, here we go with another one, chat. Let's go. YouTube, say hi to Twitch. Twitch, say hi to YouTube. Look, this is round 2 of my last, not the greatest tournament. My last tournament was US Masters, but before that I played a warm-up tournament, which was a norm tournament as well. So I want you guys to actually, you know, get hype about this. And we're going to cover round 2. This is round 2 of that tournament, which is the Tate Memorial. So round 1, I got the draw against Dalton. Round 2 here, I'm playing Ryo Chen. Very strong FM kid, right? Hey, GM, and drop down to 650. It happens. What up? What's good? What's up? What up? All right, chat. Need some energy. So here we go. It says just Colossus on mine. No, this is Ryo Chen. This Ryo Chen here. I have to check the game too as well. So round 2. Sorry. This is round 3. You're right. In fact, you're actually right. You're actually right. This is round 3. This is round 3. In fact, so round 2 was a draw with Josh Colossus. In fact. Josh Colossus is my dog, and we just took a quick draw because we was like, yeah, we going for the same thing. So we was like, yeah, we just we're not gonna fight, right? So we took a draw in round 2. This is actually round 3 where I played Ryo. So actually round 1 was Dalton Perrine. Thank you for that, by the way, World Chess. Is round 1 was a draw with Dalton. Round 2 was a draw with Josh Colossus. And round 3 though, this was a game where I was ready to fight here. And in fact, it was a Najdorf Sicilian, like the first round. First round was black. Fought my way, and then fought and got a draw. And then here, I'm playing Ryo. Here we go. So e4, c5, knight of 3, d6. Right. And then d4, takes, knight of 6, knight c3, a6. While we're blowing through this, because this is theory, I love a Najdorf Sicilian. And there's so many ways that you can play the Najdorf, is why I like it. It's because it's very, very flexible. Like a Taimanov as well. But to Najdorf, you have a lot of flexibility here. So after a6, bishop e2, which I know he plays this based off the files I looked at. E5, knight to b3, and bishop e7. This is the standard. You just play very quickly here. You put the bishop on e7. You play d6, e5, right? And this is called the Opazinski variation here, where really they bully the d5 square. Pay attention to the d5 square, my guy. Bruh. This is the square lots of times, and when they castle short, it becomes more of a positional game. Later in the middle game, you'll have more tactics, but definitely a positional game. Even the game where I'll show you against Alex Fishbane, where I was able to draw in my greatest tournament ever, which was the last tournament, and I had a fight for d5 once again, and another positional type of Najdorf here. Right, so Najdorf is very strong. Now, of course, the d5 move is very, very crazy. So here we go. The d5 square. D5 square is all about that in these type of variations. So bishop e7, he castles. This is all prep, by the way. And then he goes bishop f3, and immediately, bruh, I was out of prep. He needs some milk. I was like, what is this? Like, out of all his games, because I checked a lot of his games, a lot of them. When I prep for somebody, like, I check a lot of your games, and he didn't play this. I was like, what is this? But what he did was he move ordered me. The move order is very important. Now, of course, I know what to do now, but I got move order. Bishop e6 is the correct move. You still follow this? After bishop e6, a4, what I failed to do, I played a blunder. And in fact, I call this a positional blunder, because, you have to understand. And now that I understand, I know that this is a positional blunder in a way. Engine doesn't even cover this. In fact, what do you think you would do here? Black to move, right? Black to move. I'm going to see if you make the same positional blunder here. Positional blunder. In a way, which gave me trouble the rest of the game. Black to move. What do you think you do? What do you think you do, bro? Knight b to d. Okay. Develop a knight b6, but where? Knight c6, most natural for max. Knight up. Okay. Knight up. Get me the knight up. Would go knight c6. Okay. b6 is nice. Pawn b6. Knight c6. 100% correct, chat. You are right. Knight c6. Let's go, right? Knight c6. But in a way, it's like a positional blunder, really. Really. It's not where it should be because of later on what happens in the game. When I went back through their files and everything that I've looked at in this position, knight c6 is not the move. You do have knight b to d7. But the move I'm supposed to play, believe it or not, is queen to c7, with the idea of rook to c8, and we're waiting for the knight to move to d2, where then we'll go knight c6 so we can go knight d4. But we can't go knight d4, which lets him go knight d5 before we go knight d4. So after we have a trade, for instance, knight c6, right? Knight c6. Let's go forward. Here. Yes. And knight c6, right? And then knight d5, which happened in the game. After a trade here, the knight has to move and we can't go to d4. So we have to wait for the knight to move before we can go knight to d4. I know this now from obviously analyzing the game, looking at files and understanding. Excuse me. I was supposed to play queen c7 first, waiting for the knight to move. So I can go rook to c8 and just pressure this. When the knight goes to d2, because it wants to reroute, a lot of times the bishop also moves. Rook goes to e1, knight goes to f1, knight goes to e3. There's a great you get Pogar game with white, but doing this, rook e1, knight f1, knight e3, putting the knight on d5. But as soon as the knight moves, we go knight c6, so we can put the knight on d4. A very good understanding of this Najdorf here now, but this is what I'm supposed to play. And then rook to c8, holding the knight and waiting for this. What I did was knight to c6, which gives us a just kind of a weird position. What I mean by that is, let me show you. Knight d5, right? I take on d5. Takes, and then knight a5. I already had this plan. I'm doing fine here, but watch what happens, right? Knight d2, rook c8, which I had all this in mind. I want to go knight c4. He stops me. I go queen c7. I knew this would happen, and then we would have this position here with the rook on a2. But the problem is my knight's out of the game. Now this is a position that's nice and is very equal, but the knight's out of the game. But I also have pressure here, and I was fine with this, but I also was like, I knew something was wrong because the knight on the rim is dim. Correct. The knight is very gross over here. I can't really move it. And it's going to take a long time to get it back into the game. So, okay, I go knight d7, right, with the idea of f5. Some cases, knight b6 or c5, like all kind of stuff. He goes bishop e2. And I sat here, and this is why you need to take your time, chat. Bruh. Take your time. What do you think you do in this position? There's a deadly trap right now. Deadly. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even see that. But all I did was calculate a little bit more just to make sure I'm not missing anything. And then I found it. And I was like, oh, snap. All right, thanks for the follow. Knight takes b3. Yeah, that just loses the whole piece there, Luther. Yikes. Yikes, Luther. Garbage. Come on. You're going to need to breathe, my guy. You're going to need to breathe. b4 is the threat. Yes, says Max. I'm in timeout. You are. You are indeed. So what happened here, right? The threat is actually b4. My knight is trapped. Playing on the fact that this knight's really bad. Again, this is why I should have waited. Right, yeah, b5, I mean, you're just kind of hanging a piece there, right, in a way. So I go knight f6. Knight f6. I go back because I know b4 is the move he wanted. And this was tactically defending against b4, because if b4, now I can take on d5, completely winning because knight c3. Right, tactics. COE, baby! You know what I'm saying? Like, COE! Okay, right? Calculation over everything. ShopCantyMerch.com, right? ShopCantyMerch.com, okay? Yep, absolutely. Always a shameless plug. We just got the new stuff. Make sure you go get your stuff. COE all the time. Back to the game, right? So knight takes d5, pawn takes, and then I go knight c3. So I'm calculating. I'm like, huh, you know, let's go. I put the knight back on f6. Knight back on f6. Right? So then he goes bishop back to f3. Right? Bishop f3. Cool. So I play a different move. Instead of going back to d7, I wanted to play for more, to be honest. So I played b6. b6. Because I want to get the knight back in the game. He goes knight e4. I go knight d7. Bishop e2, attacking the pawn. I go rook a8 to defend it. Actually, it's all equal here. Rook a3. And here I got a little frightened because I was like b4 and a rook lift. And like, you know, there's stuff. I was afraid to play h6 here. And then, believe it or not, h6, I think he can sack. Bishop takes h6. And as I looked at this. Takes. b4. I have to move the knight probably. And then like he has rook g3 check, followed by a queen d2. Like I was like, and then I'm like, yo, you know what, bro? I don't want to be anywhere near this. So I'm not going to play h6 because my idea is to play f5, but I don't want knight to g5 to happen. I wanted to play f5, but I didn't because knight g5. And then I was saying to myself, well, what about bishop takes, bishop takes? And I have f4, and I kind of locked the bishop out, but then he has f3, which gets the bishop to h4, right? But apparently I have queen c5 check here, and I missed this. I missed this because the rook is hanging, but h6, g5 was my whole idea with this. It was tough, and I looked at this because I'm locking the bishop out. I'm locking the bishop out, but then again, here he has b4. I have to move the knight somewhere, maybe like b7, knight b7. He can still swing the rook over. Now he can play f3, right? And this is kind of weird. This is kind of weird, and I did give up. I don't have any bishops. Like, I have no bishops. Bruh. So you better be careful. And look at this knight, right? What is it doing? You know, it's not the greatest. Not the greatest. And I thought about this in calculation. So after rook a3, I just went back because I wanted to keep the flexibility. I also want to play knight c5. He goes b4, I go a5. And I think I'm getting in time trouble here as well. So a5, I carve a square out so I can try to put the knight c5. He goes c3, stopping that whole idea. Sorry, I go knight f6. He takes, I takes back, and he goes bishop b5. Very strong move. Very strong, just like bishop's on a good square. I go rook b8, he goes bishop e3. And as you see, the knight is so bad. All because of right here. If you go back, all because I developed it to c6. Think about that. All of this trouble because I put the knight on the natural square. All of this trouble. Natural square. Right? So it's very important, right? Positional blunder in a way. Queen c7 and rook to c8. This is what I want. This is what you want. Future reference. Knight c6 immediately gets into what we have, especially if you take, because you got to get rid of that knight, or he's going to cement it in there. It's for the hydrate there from Graham. So b3, queen c7, rook a2, right, knight d7. And we fast forward. Rook a8, knight b7. Yeah. Knight f6. So we get here. Bishop takes, he goes bishop b5. I go rook b8. Again, the terrible knight here. Bishop e3, I go knight to d8. Oh my goodness. Bruh. My idea here is to move the bishop, play f5, and eventually play knight f7. It's going to take a while. But man, what a night. Boy, what a night. It's going to be a long night. This is not your night. Bruh. Okay, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. The knight's going to go to f7, but I need to move the bishop. I need to play f5, f4. I need to go knight f7. It's going to take a long time. Queen d3. I go queen e7. I don't even know why I even went here. Should have just moved bishop e7. But I think I was getting in time trouble. No idea. Oh, I think queen c4, but that's not really a thing. So queen e7. I go rook b7. Pieces look bad. Rook b3, g6, queen e4, bishop g5. So I'm able to trade the bishops, right? But I go rook a7 first. We trade. And here, believe it or not, black is slightly better according to the engine, but I'm equal. Like, I'm good. Like, I got out of it. Practically, though, and I'm down on time here by a lot. I know I was getting in time trouble. This isn't that good. So I played rook c7. This is still equal, believe it or not, even with this bishop here, but it's practically it doesn't feel that good. I'm supposed to go f5 and try to like push everything through, which I don't know why I didn't go for this, but I should have. I just took first, but this is bad. You know, I thought that I was able to get out of this. Rook c8, b5, and I thought I had a blockade in a way, but it's actually just +2 all the way. It's weirdly enough, but it feels like, yes, he has the pawn here, but like the problem is this is weak, which I thought I can defend. And defend this as well, but it's problematic. I'm also I'm in time trouble here. Queen d2, he goes queen b1, rook d8, c4, I bring the queen back. He goes queen d3, I go queen c5, and I'm like, I'm short on spaces. I am very short on spaces, so I need to be careful. He goes rook d1, and then I'm getting in time trouble trying to figure out my next move, and I just make a move, right? King f8. He goes queen c3, and I'm immediately game over, bro. Bruh. Because the rook is going to trap the queen here. So the only move that you can play is d5, but if my king is not on f8, problem is after you go d5, queen takes e5, and it's almost mate over here. There's problems. It's big problems here. And this is the problem with, like, you have to know what you're doing when you're playing the Najdorf, especially in the positional ones. I think the worst ones are the positional ones. These right here. These Najdorfs are the hardest ones to play. So I spent a lot of time studying this Najdorf in particular, with the castle on the same side because of how hard it is to play. The fun ones are the ones with like bishop g5, castle opposite sides. That's the Najdorf you love. But the one that you hate and that you need to study more of is the one when they have the positional d5 square and they castle to both sides, or they castle to the same side. Having this position, knight c6, is not the move. I'm supposed to go here and queen c7, rook c8, so I have the option and flexibility of the knight for later. But I committed it very early, and it gave me a lot of trouble. So I learned from this game, a lot of it. I learned a lot from this game here, where how bad this knight was. Very bad knight. And even what's funny is, I actually had a game in the US Masters, best tournament I've ever played, where one of the games I played, I remembered this idea of not putting my knight to the rim. But what's funny is the engine was like, no, that's the best move. Like, garbage. But at least I learned, and like I didn't put my knight over there because I remember what happened in this game, and I couldn't get it out. Like, it was very, very problematic. But the knight in that game, which we'll cover later, was pretty good to put it there. So fast forward, I go d5, he takes on e5, and the game's over. And I had like 20 seconds left. I just resigned. When he takes e5, game is over. Right, threat levels make you develop pieces. Naturally, a position is bad. Right, so this is round 3. Of course, we're going to cover round 4, and we're going to go through all the other rounds as well, until we get to the US Masters, which is the greatest tournament of my life. But yeah, this was round 3 here, so I learned a lot from it. Najdorf Sicilian. These are hard ones. I think the hardest ones, and if you're a Najdorf player, one you should study probably more than the ones that you like to study, is this one when you castle to the same side and the d5 square. There's lots of moves, bishop e3, f4, h3, a4, and bishop f3 followed by a4. But what he did is move ordered me, because bishop f3 right now, when I went through the files, it wasn't a move. But when I went back, I saw that a4 was a move, followed by bishop e6, and then bishop f3. And then I go queen c7, rook c8. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I got move order because I really didn't understand what was going on with the d5 square here. And I had another game like that as well, with the d5 square being bullied. So hopefully y'all learn from this. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. We'll see you guys on the next video.